crazy, but I didn't know he would.
How did it run after that, Cat?
It helped it. It didn't spin as much coming off the turn.
Welcome to another high-octane episode of Southern Dirt Motorsports.
Hello everyone, this is Steve Winstead with Southern Dirt Motorsports along with Mr. Randall Davis and Mr. Jack Smith. Jack, perhaps you let us in your house today. It's an honor to finally get to meet you.
Thank you. Jack was one of the guys that I really enjoyed watching race. I enjoyed racing with.
He was smooth.
He was smooth, and I guess, Jack, something before it eludes my mind, I'd like to ask you, all of us that has driven these old cars, it had a lasting effect on our life. It's a very humbling sport. Anytime you think you're really doing good and you're really big, something will happen to knock you back down into reality. How did your racing career, how did that affect your life during and after racing?
Oh my goodness. When Steve called me about this, I haven't thought about anything else for the last 2 or 3 weeks, but that career and my racing career. And I'll think about it, and I'll think, well, Jack, why did you do that? So much time, so much energy, so much risk. And it causes me to wonder, and I still don't know whether it's justified or not, but it had such a strong impact on my life. I had 2 children. One, Martin's the oldest boy, but I guess 64. Martin would have been about 58, whatever that would be, 64. Anyway, he was 10, 11, 12 years old, 14 years old, and that was going on. I used to take him with me all the time. He was a part of it. Marty, can we get a picture of Marty? Come around here, hon.
Yeah.
Me and Marty would get in that old car and go, and he would do this and do that and try to help. He's a little Gary. Marty is a little Gary Lawrence. He used to try to warm it up for me a little sometimes, even. Them old dirt tracks, drying the track.
I remember I always enjoyed doing that because you get stuck in the middle from the old mud.
Closer.
And then I just remember when I finally got it to go sliding around the corners. That was always, and I didn't have the straps on, so I had to take my right arm and hold on to the bar and go around the curve with my left hand because I would slide over in the seat because I was a kid.
But anyway, we traveled together, we worked together. I didn't isolate my family, didn't isolate him. We grew up in it. And if it hadn't got me off the blacktop, my gosh, that blacktop, I'd be dead. That's all there was to it, because, we run them blacktops. I bought a 66 SS 396 Super Sport Chevelle in 1966, 360 horsepower. And I bought that thing with a high-speed rear end. I run it 140-something miles an hour over there outside of, between Manchester and whatever that community is there, other side of Manchester before you start up the hill. But that SS 396, it would fly. I don't know how I survived that.
Well, in the muscle car era, you could buy a race car off the showroom floor.
You could. I wish I had that car. I wish I gave $3,600 for it. It'd be worth $100,000 today.
Well, racing it wasn't just about the driver, it was his family. It was a way of life.
That's true. Good point, Randall. Good point. And it became a part of our life. Of course, my career was going on. I had started on this career in education and started working at the vocational school 29 years old when I started teaching up there. And I wanted to make my way up, establish economic stability for the family. Worked there, worked in Nashville, drove back and forth from Centertown to Nashville for about 2 years. Knew I had to be in Nashville to get promotion because I didn't have the politics. I just had to convince them, and be convenient and be the man for the job. And wound up getting to school at Livingston, and then 7 years up there, about 74 to 79. And then got a regional supervisor over 28 counties, working out of an office at Tech, and worked there until I retired at 65 years old. So I had this good career that I worked at, I balanced it in, and this race car and this recreation thing took so much of the stress away from that job.
Kind of like therapy.
Yeah, it truly was. It truly was. You know, I got into yoga, I was telling y'all, and I've been doing it for 20 years, teach yoga at the YMCA in Cookeville. And I didn't know about meditation, I didn't know what I was doing until I got into yoga and began to realize the power of the mind. And what I found out, what I learned was that driving is a meditative experience. Driving, you're meditating, you're so focused, you're so in the present. You can't think about, well, what am I going to have for supper, or what did I do yesterday? You can't even think about, I got to go to the bathroom. You're going down that straightaway at 90 miles an hour into a 180-degree turn, and there's somebody here and somebody here and somebody here. You're right there, buddy. You better have your mind in the moment, and that is the lesson of it. It goes back to controlling the mind.
It's hard to describe to someone that hadn't done it just what it's like. It's intense, but it's also the most relaxing thing.
That's
that
its
you
story.
can,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
it's hard to describe somebody how running like that, going that fast with everything around you, how
Exactly.
it could be relaxing, but it is.
It is. It is. It's a deep relaxation of the mind, and probably contributed to some extent to my success in the professional that I was in. But anyway, it's been one heck of a life, and
Sometimes you just got to walk away from your real job and
that's right.
Jack,
and I know that quite well.
did your students, did they ever talk to you about your racing while you were doing it?
The students at the McMinnville Area School that I had in class there, they knew it. Yeah, that's when I had the 66 SS 396, and I was 29 and my students were 19. They had just gotten out of high school, and I hadn't been out of college. I was out of college and worked in industry for about 5 years and was back, and so I was just one of the kids. We'd go out there and play touch football, but I made them let me throw for both sides at break. In fact, remember, I was close to them. Dennis Mills, Jimmy Floyd out of Sparta was a student there. I got to tell you this. The boy that was over the electric company there in Sparta helped me a minute. He retired, and I think so much of him, and he invited me to his retirement dinner out there at Sparta.
Mhm.
And I had him in class, and I'd gotten him a job in McMinnville, and he invited me to his retirement dinner. Had all that family. I bet there were 200 out there at the Sparta Center, and Walker, was that his name? Anyway, he'd gotten to be assistant director of the Sparta Electric down there. And he got up and said, he said, I want to introduce some men here tonight that made it all possible for me. He said, Jack, would you come up here and say a few words? The tears came to my eyes, and still do almost thinking about it.
Well, let me ask you this. I know Bobby Bogart, he's a good guy, and he was a big part of your racing career.
Bobby was.
Tell us a little bit about Bobby.
Bobby is the best kind. He is so good. He's such a good fellow. I tell you what, I talked to him before about coming up here, and he said he couldn't come. And I said, well, Bobby, is there anything you don't want me to tell him about? He said, no, I can't think of nothing. I says, I can't think of nothing I could tell him if I wanted to, Bobby. You were always there. You were always working. You were always serious. And got Bobby involved in that, helping me when he was in welding. And then he came back and started taking auto mechanics, and he started helping me. We was driving back and forth to Smoky Mountain, Maribel, get back at 3 o'clock in the morning. Down there, Bobby was always there, logical, good answers, good work. Helped him get a job teaching. He retired as an instructor there at the vocational school. Me and Bobby, and I'll tell you something you probably don't know. Bobby had 2 kids, has 2 kids. Oldest one is a girl. Her name is Gina, my wife's name. Youngest one is a boy, TJ. That's what I go by, TJ. named after me, and 2 kids, and both after me.
Well, I know TJ, and I always thought he was named after a Jeep.
No, sir, he's named after me, and Gina's named after my wife.
Yeah, did you build your engine yourself, Jack, or did you, or was it a mixture? Or
It was a mixture, Randall, it was a mixture. We'd put them together, we'd send them over from Chattanooga and get them boarded and polished and balanced and done this and done that. And it was a mixture.
Well, I know you had some really good running engines there, and I never did. I didn't know if you were building them yourself or if you had help doing it. What was taking place there? I know a lot of us did everything ourselves.
I didn't have that degree of skill. I got help. I had to have a lot of help with it.
Well, you're the glue that put it all together, though, when it got there.
Well,
You made it work good, Jack.
thank you. Appreciate
To me,
that.
you were one of the great drivers out there.
You know, over the years, the engineering on brake systems in race cars has evolved. What kind of brake system was you
We
running?
just had a drum brake.
Just plain old
Yeah.
drum brakes?
A lot of times I think we'd take a wheel and drum off of a 3/4 ton truck. It was a little bigger, a little heavier, and put a set of brakes on it.
We would, on the wide 5 ones, we would use Buick brake drums, machine the center out of them and put the 5 little bolt pattern in them, and then we had some big drum brakes. The aftermarket people started building them like that, but we first built them at the junkyard and a parts store that had lathes and stuff, and in trade schools that would let us use their equipment to do it with.
Yeah.
You know, undoubtedly, the rims and tires were not stock on them cars back in. Where did you get your rims at, racing rims?
Made them?
Made them?
Yes, sir.
Kind of what I thought.
Took the center out and put a center around the welding shops at the vocational school.
Oh,
That vocational school made lots of wheels.
Yes, sir.
And you know, the amazing thing about it, they came out fairly balanced and ran true.
Yeah.
They did a good job
It
on
was good for the students. It was good for
That's
staff.
back when machinists really were machinists.
That's true.
I've often wondered where you all got them wheels at.
Well, that's where most of mine came from. Or sometimes somebody's wife would make him get out of the racing business and you could buy a few that way.
Howard Blair, you know Howard Blair lived out there in the Short Mountain area. He's a good friend of mine. He's a machine shop instructor at McMinnville. Me and Howard used to ride motorcycles together, Lord have mercy. That's the only thing that's more dangerous than a race car is a motorcycle on the highway, boys.
Yes, they are.
You don't ask them if you've had a wreck, you say, when did you have your wreck?
Bobby and Evelyn Blue was put in the Hall of Fame this year. Of course,
Bobby Polgard?
no, Bobby Blue, that
Oh, okay.
owns the
Yeah,
Hillham track.
yeah.
Obviously, you know, they're not with us no more, and the twin girls was there to accept the award. Did you ever run in Hillham either?
Just once or twice, I think, when I first moved up here. I went out there one night and ran. That's about the only time I ever run out there.
I heard on one of her previous podcasts that Hillham was a unique track, that no corner was the same.
I can't remember racing at Hillham myself. I might have, but I can't remember racing there. Burgess Falls was one of the most unique tracks too that I raced at some. And I don't know if Jack ever raced at Buffalo Valley or not, but they had a really good oval track up there. It was banked real high, and
I like to.
it was. I enjoyed that track.
Yeah, I did too.
You know, speaking of Buffalo Valley, if anybody out there knows who I can get in contact with, I would love to do a story about the Buffalo Valley track. I'd like to be able to get some access in it. Please shoot me a message on Facebook, Steve Winstead, or shoot me a message on Southern Dirt Motorsports at gmail.com. that's one track I would really like to get into and do a story on it. Maybe you could join us down there.
I watched some features at Buffalo Valley. Down there one night and they had a fight.
Well, that's kind
That's
of common thing around dirt tracks.
There's all over the infield. There's all over the infield. That's the one fella that's running or something. He had a blackjack. He'd go around, pick which one he'd pop him on the head. He'd fall over. He'd go here to this much and pop somebody on the head.
Yeah, there was a point in time you had to win the feature on the track and in the pits too.
Oh, back when you was driving, I ask this question every once in a while because I don't want to wear it out. When you was driving, not necessarily in order, who would you say were the top 10 drivers in the Upper Cumberland area?
Oh my goodness.
Not necessarily in order, but just
Yeah.
some that comes to mind.
BK, of course, would be there, and Earl Lawrence, and the Styles boy, what's his name?
Cat style.
Cat Styles, and
Raymond.
and Raymond, his brother, and Jeff, was it Slatton? Jim Slatton's brother,
We had Billy Joe Slatton.
Billy Joe Slatton, yeah, his brother worked out in Ulster with me, I think.
Did you ever race any with old Charles Huddle?
You know, I don't think I did.
I don't think he ever drove a late model. I think all of his was open wheel.
And
I
we
think
had
he
his car.
He had wound down. I remember being at Winchester a time or two when I was down there, but somehow or another, he was running a different class, so I don't really remember running against him. I've seen him run and know how steady he was and admired him, but that's all I can say about it.
We was fortunate enough to have Charles's car at the Hall of Fame ceremony this year.
How
Good
about
start and run.
How about that?
Ike was there with him.
Yeah,
That was that's one reason I had hoped Bobby Bogart could be here with you today, because when Steve and the rest of us can, we like to put the old racing teams back together.
yes.
And Bobby would have been a good addition to this team. The team would have been back together.
Let me tell you a little story if you got time. Me and Jimmy Hudson's running at McMinnville in the semi. And Jimmy's running in front, and I was running second. I kept trying to get by him. I finally got by him going into the last turn, and he bumped me and spun us both out. And we're sitting there, and the cars are going by. Jimmy's sitting there looking mad, and I'm pretty mad myself. I said, well, Jimmy, it looks like ain't neither one of us going to win this, are we? He said, no, I guess not. And it wasn't 2 weeks till my motor went down. And Billy Joe, his brother, who owned the car, he said, Smiths, why don't you drive mine? He didn't speak plain, Billy Joe didn't. But he was a good friend of mine, raced with me, helped me, we went all over the country together. We'd been down Duck Valley one time, coming back, and we stopped to get a cold drink at a convenience store there, and I handed Billy his. He said, Smiths, you got any opener? I said, hell, Billy, give it to me. He handed it to me, and I handed it back. He looked at me, he said, Smiths, he said, I don't know how. He said, I know you didn't open it with your teeth. But he asked me to speak at his funeral, bless his heart, and I had the honor of speaking at Billy Joe Hudson's funeral. And I read a soliloquy from Khalil Gibran, describing a friend, and that's what Billy and I were, friends.
He met the criteria for that.
He did.
Where did you run your last race at? And do you remember the year?
I don't. Somehow or another, I was winded down, and that was that old Nova that was running so good, and I don't know why. I don't really actually remember what happened to that car. I think I sold it. I was changing jobs. I was leaving the school, going to the regional office. Me and Marty and the kids was in the cattle business and the hog business over here, and I just sort of drifted away from it.
Well, in the racing business, lots of times you don't quit. You just don't do it no more until the next time.
That's a good way of putting it.
Did the time ever come where it hit you that you said, maybe I need to get out of this, I'm losing interest in it? Do you?
No. my decisions are basically right brain decisions, and I make them, and I don't know why. And if you work with your mind, you'll find out that's the best way to make them, guys. You're using both sides of your brain.
Yes.
Well, before we get out of here, have you got any advice that you would like to give to these aspiring drivers that's coming up?
Enjoy it, balance it. Passes so quick, boys. Enjoy the moment, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
I can agree with that wholeheartedly. It's a big part of your life. It's probably one of the biggest part of your life, but it goes by super, super quick. It's done and gone and hard to get back to.
When you can cultivate and manage your emotional system, your brain, your right brain, that just it's a different approach to life, and that's what my yoga's done for me, and it's been such a blessing, this yoga.
Proud for you.
Well, on that note, we're going to end this edition of Southern Dirt Motorsports podcast. Appreciate Mr. Jack Smith for allowing us to come in his home.
Having you.
Appreciate Randall for coming up.
And if I could, Steve, I'd like to thank Jack too, and proud to be reunited with Jack again. I've always considered him a good friend, and his mechanical Bobby Bogart. I'm fortunate enough to be a neighbor of his, so I get to see him every once in a while. If it's nothing more, but how you doing? Passing by, but proud to get to be with you today, Jack.
Thank you, man. I'm proud to have you.
And also, don't need to forget the person behind the camera, Miss Doris Davis, that's running the camera and trying to make me look as good as she can. She's got her work cut out for her. And on that note, we're going to end this. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Southern Dirt Motorsports on YouTube. Please like and share, and please tell your friends and neighbors about it. For Randall Davis, Jack Smith, I'm Steve Winston. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.